From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Unpacking trade talks.
Yeah, I think the farmers are excited about it. They're glad to see the new USMCA deal put back together.
And we're in Illinois today, but we're talking much more than harvest, but ethanol. We hear from one farmer who's boots on the ground in Washington, D.C., who has testified on 815.
In agribusiness, does corn still have a story?
We do, but the trade situation's holding it up, and it's for all commodities for that matter.
Prime beef prices are down. We'll tell you why on Drovers TV. And the farmers of the future may be robotic.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The Trump administration continues its victory lap for negotiating a trilateral agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. At political rallies and media gatherings, leaders continuing to praise the new NAFTA, but it's not yet a done deal. Legislators in all three countries have to vote in favor of the new agreement.
Yeah, I think the farmers are excited about it. They're glad to see the new USMCA deal put back together. We've got a great North American neighborhood here with Canada, Mexico, who have always been in our top three trading partners. So it means better access, more unfettered access for dairy, for poultry, for eggs into Canada, but also have access into Mexico, which is already a good customer.
And Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa believes it will depend on which party wins the House in November midterm elections, saying, quote, if the Democrats take the House, the vote will be in the lame duck session of Congress. If Republicans win the House, expect a vote next year. Overall, Grassley calls it a win. Now, one of the biggest wins in the deal, increased access to Canada's dairy market. A Bank of America Merrill Lynch global economist estimating the 3.59% increase in market access will increase U.S. dairy exports to Canada by about $70 million.
There are many sections of this agreement that refer back to transparency, posting stuff on the website, access to the information, mechanisms to check up to see how things are being done. Are they being implemented according to the agreement? So we will be working closely with USTR to ensure that what was agreed to is what actually happens, and that this market access is actually effective market access.
The battle to end the trade war with China continues. National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow saying talks could take place at the G20 meeting in Argentina at the end of November, but Kudlow says he's not 100% sure that will happen, and he says the U.S. has been ready to talk and negotiate as long as China is serious.
We broke through on dairy and milk, which was always, MILK. We actually broke through on that. Wheat and some other grains. I think the continent as a whole now stands united against what I'm going to call unfair trading practices by you-know-who. Starts with a C and it ends with an A.
Canada?
No. Nice try. Honestly, I think it sends a signal to China that we are acting as one, and I think that's very good.
95% of the world's population resides outside the U.S., and experts say resolving trade issues with China would help tap into a major market.
We're anticipating in the next 10 years another 50 billion pounds of milk in the U.S. So we will go from about 210 billion pounds of milk to about 260 billion pounds of milk in 10 years. Our exports must increase.
On the topic of trade talks, AgriPulse reporting India has reached out to the U.S. seeking a free trade agreement. The president saying, quote, they called us and they said, we want to start negotiations immediately. We want to keep your president happy. USDA Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs, Ted McKinney, has already led 2 trade delegations to India. U.S. corn farmers and ethanol producers could be some of the biggest beneficiaries of an agreement with that nation. The country has said for years it wants to expand ethanol use in gas that runs its 142 million cars, motorcycles, and trucks. The president is scheduled to be in Iowa next week. He's alluding to a big announcement. Now, some outlets are reporting it may be allowing year-round sales of E15. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon was in Illinois this week speaking to farmers. She joins us from the road.
Clinton, we're here now in Mazan, Illinois, and I'm joined by Paul Jeske, one of the farmers here in the area. And not only is he involved with harvest, but he's boots on the ground in Washington, D.C. He's testified about ethanol on Capitol Hill. So we're going to talk to him about ethanol today. Paul, the president is supposed to make an announcement next week. We're very short on details, but there's speculation he will make an announcement on E15 year-round. You've talked about this on Capitol Hill. If that is indeed the announcement, do you think that'll increase demand here at home, or do we have to rely on exports?
Well, we need to rely on both. It'd be a wonderful thing if the president would approve year-round E15 sales. He talked about this 2.5 years ago in the campaign and made a commitment to try and make that happen for us. He's repeated it several times in Iowa on visits, a wonderful ag state that he makes a lot of his announcements in. And so we're very hopeful that that can happen, because to develop an E15 market, you can't sell a product in major markets only 9 months of the year and expect consumers who get confused by gasoline anyway to accept something that is only available part of the year.
So basically, no matter if we get E15 in this country or not year-round, we really have to rely on those exports. That's key.
Well, we need to do everything. We need to use every gallon of ethanol every place that it's possible. But yes, in my opinion, we're not going to dramatically increase usage by E15 in the short term, and it's going to take a little while.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. We'll see what the president announces, and we'll see what he has to say next week when he's in Iowa. Until then, I'm Betsy Gibbon, and I'm reporting in Mazan, Illinois.
After multiple years of growth, farmland values seem to be leveling off, not dropping in a big way. According to researchers at USDA, farm real estate, including land and the structures on the land, reached a historic high in 2015 of $3,178 per acre. Well, this year, those real estate values are down, but by only $38 to the acre. The leveling off coinciding with declines in farm sector income. USDA says farm real estate generally accounts for more than 80% of farm sector assets, and it often serves as collateral for loans. Drought conditions may be getting better in the so-called oil patch area. That includes Texas, northern Louisiana, and southern New Mexico. Bankers responding to a third-quarter survey by the Dallas Fed say they've seen some easing of drought conditions there, but there continues to be problems with dryland crop production. Hay inventories are tight. That's putting pressure on livestock. Despite the challenges, the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas saying it's seeing a decrease in overall demand for ag loans, while loan renewals and extensions rose slightly. Cindy Clausen with the AgDay weather team joining us for a look at farm country and today's crop comments. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. Check out this photo from Randy McNeil in Waldenburg. That's a town in Poinsett County, Arkansas. Can you tell it's harvest time? Now, if you look closely, you can see a long line of full trucks as far as the eye can see. Randy says those trucks are hauling rice into Poinsett Rice and Grain. Now, he shared this photo on Twitter. The USDA says about 77% of rice has been harvested in Arkansas. That's 2% ahead of the 5-year average. Overall, the 6 states harvesting rice right now are on par with that 5-year average. Let's take a look at the winds over the next 24 hours or so. You could see strongest over by the Great Lakes, but also some over in the plains as we have a cold frontal boundary there. We're going to see those winds picking up later today in the western parts of the plains and over towards the Four Corners region. And then as we head into your Friday, we're going to be seeing those winds starting to pick up again in the southern plains, especially Texas, Oklahoma, and in the eastern parts of the Four Corners region. We're going to have your national forecast coming up in just a few minutes, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Still ahead is corn. Still the talk right now for the market. We'll get an update from our agribusiness expert. And a new way to farm. That means more helping hands and why you could soon see robots out in the field. Andy Schisser with S&W Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. Andy, as we look at these corn prices, I think at one point people thought, oh, well, we might have a story here on corn. Is there still a story here?
We do, but the trade situation's holding it up, and it's for all commodities for that matter.
Absolutely.
So put that aside. We could have a really bullish corn, wheat, and bean market if things get fixed, because you had world weather issues around the world.
Sure.
I mean, so we had Argentina get burned up, then we had Europe get burned up, Russia has a wheat problem, Australia has a wheat problem. I'm really, really bullish wheat, but in the next 12 months, I think prices go up. I think prices in corn flatline until the wheat market does what it's going to do. But what's strange enough is even last week we nudged up against $4 D's corn. This is kind of funny, but around this time of year, for the last 4 years, I've sold next D's corn really close or at $4, and I've sold D's corn $4 calls, and I've been able to generate a price of something close to $4.25 to $4.28. And we came within a penny for the 4th year in a row at the same time. And it's like, so, yeah, so you wouldn't think you'd be doing sales into next year, and there they are. So I put some sales on for next year, and I did some for 20 as well.
Okay.
But like, so I always will market like 3 years at a time, and my best sales are the ones that like I do the 2 years out. And eventually I'll get stung on that, but I'm not doing such a huge percentage, but it allows me to tack on as I go. And it's like a huge advantage. It's just when I've got some stuff on and then things kind of go bad for a while and then we're waiting for a rally, I don't have near the pressure. And the bank likes to see your sales on going into the winter meetings. So
yeah, and 425 is a pretty good number.
I was surprised. I was just
like
we broke it on the crop report from the yield, and we got all the way back, and I was just like, well, there's the number, and so you got to do it. So the marketing doesn't necessarily happen quite like you'd think sometimes, but I think with corn, you always got to be marketing 2-3 years of crop out to kind of get your numbers. But there's lots of companies that create those products to make those kind of sales. And like I've been doing them for a decade, and they always work pretty well for me.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you so much, Andy. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For one-on-one marketing advice, call Andy Schisler with S&W Trading at 312-506-3888.
Ag Day, brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here with Cindy Clausen, looking at the weather map. And Cindy, it looks like more rain in the forecast for big parts of the middle of the country.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to see that over the next 24 hours. We're going to start off, especially in the northern plains, very cold, but another low pressure system is going to be bringing some rain in. Dare I say the S word in some spots? Let's take a look. First, we're going to see the cold front moving through the eastern part of the country, so look for showers and thunderstorms along that and ahead of that. Then we're going to see the backside of this, a secondary low then coming through, and that's going to be bringing some rain and, yes, some of that snow, especially look over towards North Dakota, eventually heading into Minnesota as well. High pressure settles in briefly behind the front, but we're going to start to see some of that rain moving into the east. Cold front moves off the east coast tonight. We're going to see fairly dry conditions in much of the southeast, at least for a time. As we get through Friday, we're going to be looking at rain moving back into the Great Lakes, and notice how that snow moves up towards northern Minnesota and then up into Canada. We've got the trailing cold front that will see some showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder and some higher elevation snow in parts of the Rockies. Now, over the past 24 hours, the focus for the heavier amounts of rain have been right near the Great Lakes. We're looking at rain, especially in southeastern Kansas, some in the southwest as well. Adding on the next 24 hours, you can see kind of it's along that front and that secondary area. So a lot of the northern parts of the country are going to be seeing some sort of moisture, mostly rain, but as we noted, some snow in parts of the northern plains and upper Midwest as well. Look at the highs. We're only looking at 40 degrees in Bismarck, while we're still looking at 90 down in Brownville. So there's quite a difference there in those temperatures. And you can really pick out where that front is right across the country there. We're going to be getting into the overnight hours, and we see those low temperatures dipping down into the 30s across parts of the northern tier of states. Still a lot of 60s and 70s across the south. And then as we head into tomorrow, we're going to see that cooler air spreading even further to the east. 37 in Bismarck, still a lot of 80s, so still warm and pretty muggy for a lot of the south central United States. 50s in parts of the northeast and in parts of the northwest. Let's take a look at that jet stream. That's been a big focus because we're going to see some big changes as well. Now, right now, we're starting to see that trough really develop in the west, and we're going to see that continuing right on through the weekend. And look at how it really accentuates as we get into next week. That is one deep trough while we have a big ridge in the eastern part of the country. So we're going to see some pretty warm temperatures in the east, while that cooler air and some stormy weather basically on the front side of that. So look for a very active weather pattern with big temperature differences across the country as we get into the weekend. weekend and into a good chunk of next week as well. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Moab, Utah, rain early today and then partly cloudy with a high of 75 degrees. Phillips, South Dakota, rainy and much colder, maybe a few flakes in some spots, high of 43. Mostly sunny and hot in Midgeville, Georgia with a high of 91.
Americans still love their fast food. A new survey about how many of us are eating it every day is next. And later, half car, half Roomba, this robot may be the field worker of the future. America's cattlemen are producing more high-quality beef than ever. That's creating a fundamental change to the price of wholesale cuts. Greg Henderson, the editorial director of Drovers, says, unfortunately, demand can't keep pace with the supply.
USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service says that the comprehensive beef cutout value for September was 5% higher than a year ago, but that major differences were found across categories. Prime, the highest quality category, declined 7.5%, while all other categories posted higher values year over year. Both choice and branded products increased by 6%. The increase in supply of prime relative to all other categories has driven the decline in the prime cutout.
Through the first 9 months of this year, USDA prime beef totaled more than 1 billion pounds. That's a 36% increase over last year. And the drought problems continue to cause problems for beef in Australia. Last month was the driest September on record. The Australian Bureau of Agricultural Resources, Economics and Sciences says more than 8 million head of cattle will be slaughtered during the season. That's up 2% from the previous forecast. Despite that, officials say Australian beef production during the year will total 5 billion pounds, down only slightly from the June estimate. Many producers have been hand-feeding cattle now for over a year. Fast food, apparently pretty popular. A government study's found 1 in 3 adults eat fast food on any given day. That equals about 85 million people. Those numbers coming from the Center for Disease Control. An earlier study found a similar proportion of children ate it on any given day. It also found higher income families ate fast food more often than lower income families. You could soon see a new member of the team on farms across the country. We'll take you to a farm run by robots next on In the Country.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTV X1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
The future of farming may not rely solely on human hands. A Silicon Valley startup is ready to sell vegetables grown by robots in its indoor farm. Iron Ox hoping to build robotic farms near cities to supply those restaurants and supermarkets with fresh produce. Meet a robot farmer as it delicately moves young plants from one module to another.
What that means is we're using robotics and AI to grow better produce.
The indoor nursery of robotically grown vegetables is the budding vision of a man whose roots stretch to his days working on his family's Oklahoma farm to the CEO of a new Silicon Valley startup that aims to feed people lettuce, basil, and other produce grown from the hands of robots.
We have a 1,000-pound mobile robot, lovingly named Angus, that navigates our farm autonomously, picks up one of these hydroponic grow modules, and then brings them over to this robotic arm.
Half hybrid car, half Roomba. After 2 years of tinkering with Angus and autonomous technology, Alexander's startup Iron Ox is ready to deliver its robotically grown crops to people's salad bowls. Iron Ox planted its first robot farm in an 8,000 square foot warehouse in San Carlos, California, about 25 miles south of San Francisco. It also relies on hydroponic systems for water to help conserve a resource, and the robots reduce the need to hire humans, who seem increasingly less interested in U.S. farming jobs.
Farming is facing a labor scarcity crisis. That every farmer we've talked with, and we've talked with dozens, they all are facing the same issue. They cannot get enough helping hands.
As the world's population grows, Iron Ox plans to be part of the future if its system can make the leap from the small lab-like test bed to full-scale greenhouse.
Right now we're focused on business to business, selling product to local chefs and restaurants. serving the local community, as well as donating a portion of our produce to local food banks.
The future of farming. So what do you think? That's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.